Now let's take you back to where all this happened today in KBC County. Joining us now is Simon Achola to give us an update and paint a picture on some of the activities that were happening today and even before these celebrations, and what was the key highlight of the celebrations to mark the Mashujaa Day. Thank you so much, Achola. Simon, what can you tell us?
Well, thank you very much, Safin. We've just had to actually seek shelter under these tents because, of course, the skies here in KBC have actually opened and it has started raining. That is the nature of KBC. Anytime it's about to rain, and of course it has started raining here in KBC County, and that is where we are. And of course, as we know, unprecedented situations called for unprecedented action, and of course that is where we are. These tents were actually the areas from which members of the public from this part of the country were actually following the live proceedings from the stadium, which is just about 3 kilometers from where we are standing. And it was expected that about 8,000 people will actually be gathering here. And of course, there's another tent down there, about 2 more tents the other side. Of course, those were supposed to be areas from which members of the public, invited members of the public, were actually supposed to gather and follow the proceedings as President Uhuru Kenyatta and of course other high-ranking government officials led this year's Mashujaa Day celebration at KBC Stadium. What I would say is that yes, these arrangements were actually made, but only 1 tent was filled probably towards capacity, but the most of the remaining 2 tents were actually virtually empty as members of the public actually were lining up along the streets and of course just outside the stadium, hoping that they can actually gain access into the stadium so that then they can actually follow the proceedings live from the stadium as they see President Uhuru Kenyatta. But of course we remember what was actually said yesterday, or what was communicated yesterday, that only 4,000 people will actually be invited into or allowed into the stadium. This of course is advised by the prevailing conditions, that is COVID-19 pandemic, and as such only invited guests were actually allowed into the stadium. Coming back to what was actually happening here, and of course around town as President Uhuru Kenyatta was actually officiating to this year's Mashujaa Day, was that security was extremely tight. Of course, police ensuring that only those invited could actually access this ground, and of course the stadium, but also they also ensured that those actually going into the stadium were actually putting on their mask. But to come back to where we actually are, I'll be talking to one mzee here who actually followed the proceedings here at the special tents that actually been erected here, so that he can tell us what it was like actually following the live proceedings from where we are. Habari yako mzee?
Mzuri.
Tuambie majina yako nani?
Naitwa Charles Matagaro.
Charles, tueleze tu hii ni mara ya kwanza tunaona kwamba Rais Uhuru Kenyatta anakuja hapa KBC kusherehekea sherehe hii kuu ya Mashujaa, lakini kulingana na janga la COVID-19 ama ugonjwa wa corona ilisababisha kwamba umetuwekea mahema ili tuweze kufuatilia mambo jinsi yanavyotiririka kule stadium. Hebu nieleze, wakati ulikuwa umeketi hapa ulijihisi vipi?
Nilikuwa nasikia mzuri kwa sababu tulikuwa tunakaa kando na watu. Hasa ndio niona kwa hapo kila mtu alikuwa na kando, lakini alikuwa na maski ndani, alikuwa na maski.
Alikuwa amevaa maska. Nikueleze pengine ile feeling, ukipenda ile hisia za kuwa ndani ya stadium na kukaa hapa, ulikuwa na hisi namna gani? Kwa sababu wengi wenyu mlikuwa mtaka sana mkue ndani ya stadium, lakini mmepatiwa nafasi ya kuwa hapa. Pengine unieleze tu ile hisia ilikuwa vipi?
Hapo ilikuwa mzuri kwa sababu tulikuwa tunakaa kama huko, tulikuwa watu walikuwa wanakaa pale, walichaa pale, wengine wakakuja kuatea kwa hema ndani.
Mwisho kabisa, hebu tueleze kwamba wewe ukiangalia jinsi pengine sherehe ya mwaka huu imeandaliwa na mambo yote ambayo mikakati yote ambayo imewekwa, wewe kama mkazi wa KBC unajihisi namna gani?
Niko na furaha sana kwa sababu niko na furaha kwa sababu hata kibanda kule na ilikuwa inatengenezwa ndani ya hapo kiwanja. Ni furaha sana, hata kubambo ilikuwa na bambo kweli.
Naam, shukrani sana Charles. Of course that is just one of the locals who actually came here at Kisii Golf Club to actually witness what was going on live, what was going on from the stadium. Of course, the celebration of Mashujaa Day led by President Uhuru Kenyatta. What is happening now, Safin, is that members of the public, especially those who had actually invited and actually had cars to attend the luncheon that actually follows the celebrations from the stadium, are actually now moving towards the other side of the golf club, so that then they can actually join other invited guests, so that then they can actually join in having their lunch. Of course, we'll be packaging what exactly happened on the streets of Kisii, and of course here at Golf Club, in terms of locals following the live proceedings from the stadium. And of course, in our subsequent bulletin, listeners and viewers will have a first-hand feel of what happened here in Kisii. Back to you, Safin.
Thank you so much, Achola Simon, for that report. He's coming to us live from the Kisii Golf Club, one of the venues that were hosting the excess of the guests who were invited for these particular celebrations. Big screens were mounted at the golf club just to allow the guests to follow the live proceedings of these particular celebrations. Our team on the ground, including Suleiman Yeri and Edward Kabasa, will be providing us with more details and an in-depth coverage of how the celebrations were marked in Kisii County. So that will be coming your way in our subsequent news bulletins.